Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle again. Today we're going to be working on a Penn 550 SS. It's an older reel, happens to be one that I fish myself. I like the reel. It's just been durable as anything, but it's just been one of these favorites that I just keep on my poles, and we're going to get ready for the upcoming season with it. You'll notice that it's got a lot of wear on the black paint. Usually I would clean these up and resell them, but a couple of years ago this one came in. Doesn't have much value in terms of resale or collectability, but it still has a lot of value in terms of being able to bring in the fish. So here we go. So I'm going to do an annual tune-up on this one. I'll show you how to oil, lube, and repair this reel should it be necessary. And we start by taking the spool off and taking the drive side gearing off. So I'm reversing the handle. I'm turning it clockwise to gain access to the handle and remove that, and then we're going to remove the side plate that has the gearing in it. So these are pretty strong reels. They've been around a long time. They've been upgraded. It's the Spinfisher series. It's been upgraded. This one happens to have a metal casing on it. They've been upgraded to graphite casing. They've been upgraded with an anti-reverse gear that stops the back pedaling on this reel, and been brought into the modern era, if you will, of fishing reels. But that doesn't mean that the old ones don't work well, and we'll continue. Now you can tell this is my personal reel. It's clean. A lot of times I open these things up and they're nightmares. This is one of the reasons why I have a latex glove on, because I like to make sure that if there are contaminants in there that they don't spread all over my hands and mess with me. So this one's just a general lube, but I thought I would take you through it. On the plate side, we have a felt washer, and we have one of the two bearings, the other bearing on the other side here, and there's one up top here, so it's a 3-ball bearing reel. You want to make sure when you're doing this that the reels are clean, and again you can see that this one's clean. It's been serviced last year. I only used this one several times, so and I didn't drop it in the water or anything, so it's in good shape. I like to throw a little bit of reel oil on the bearings. I use Reel X, just a coating there, and then I also, because they give me that felt washer, I like to saturate that felt washer as well to keep that lube over the course of the season. Alright, so now we're going to work into the gears. To get through the gears, we have to take the spool shaft out. To do that, we remove the two screws down here in the spool carrier. They could fall inside the reel. We'll get them out in just a moment. And once you can't pull that main gear out without taking the spool shaft off. If you try, you're going to break the teeth on the crosswind. So those spool screws go in there. And if you notice, I'm using a parts tray. I just like to keep all of my parts in one place. That enables me, when I go to reassemble, to not panic trying to find out where those parts went. Okay, I took the mounting bracket out, and then you can pull the spool out. Then you can pull the main gear out. Okay, so there is a little bit of accumulated grease here. Of course, it's on the side of my hand that I don't have the bag on, so the glove on, so there you go. Alright, so I'm just going to grab a cotton swab, just get last year's grease off of there. The reel, as you might expect from a guy who fixes reels, is clean. I'm going to take this cross block assembly off. And you can see that I have the blue grease from last year. So I'll just clean that up a little bit. We're going to put a little bit of oil on that back bearing on the other side. And then we're going to go up top. So I have the pieces here. Before I lubricate and try and put them back, we're going to take the top section off and make sure that we have the reel lubed up top here. So up top we've got a pinion shaft, we've got the anti-reverse mechanism, and we have a ball bearing sitting up there. So we just want to make sure that, again, it's clean and lubed. In order to do that, you remove that nut, And here's your assemblies. You can see this is the anti-reverse assembly that works by this friction plate here holding it. So when that gear turns and turns backwards, you'll see it moves back in and out. We're clean on this one, as I would expect. I'm just going to put a drop of oil behind that, which is where the other bearing sits, and then a drop of oil onto that screw which holds the mechanism there. I'm also going to put a drop of oil underneath here, so that's how you kind of come into that bearing without pulling all the moving parts away. And in this case, again, this is a clean reel, and I know the reel, so I don't have to worry about whether there was contamination in that bearing or not. Okay, once we do that, I move to my blue grease. I use blue grease for the moving parts. In this case, I use a Penn wheel grease. And just, I want to make sure that I have lubrication onto the pinion gear. You could work that in with your glove hand if you wanted to. And I want to make sure I have the lubrication onto the crosswind block. This crosswind block, you want to check to make sure all the teeth are there, which they are. And a general inspection underneath to make sure that's clean. You can also put a drop of oil into the bail release assembly there. And then we're going to reinstall that. Put that key lock in there. Put that nut on. Now this is a good time to tell you, if you don't work on these reels all the time, but you have one, I would recommend that you take pictures along the way. Those of you that subscribe to my channel are probably getting tired of me saying that, but you do want to take pictures along the way. This is spinning nice and freely, because if you come out of sequence, if you don't remember exactly when you took something off or where it was, then you can go back and look at your pictures along the way to find out where a particular nut went or so on. So I just put some blue grease into the channel on the crosswind. Then I set that crosswind block over that little tab that's in there. And I want to work that down. I want to bring that to the bottom of the reel so that it makes installing the shaft easier. Now we're over to the main gear. This is what everybody loves about these older reels. This is a precision gearing. I'm going to put a little bit of blue grease on there. Now we don't have to go crazy on this one. We have the blue grease up on the pinion. So what we're really checking for here is that all the teeth are uniform, that there's nothing that's bent out of shape, and we're also checking that on the back end. This is the one that drives the crosswind gear that makes the spool go up and down. Once we do that, we reinsert the main gear in. And then we pick the spool up again. We drop that in. And now you'll mate that up through that crosswind block and seat that into the channel that is down here. We're going to spin this reel now that we have the block in place. Make sure we bring it all the way down so that we can get that. I apologize if it's off camera. What I did was I brought that down so that we can line the plate that holds that together. Now in some cases, when you open up reels, you'll find that there's a screw mechanism that goes right into the shaft, and various other ways in which they mount that shaft. But in all cases, you need to make sure that the screw is removed in order to get to the spool assembly, the spool lever, and bring that in. So this is the part of the program where I complain about small parts. I just don't have a lot of luck with small screws, so bear with me. Okay, there we go. Looks like we're going to get one of these before too long. And one more to go on that. Now when I open these up, a lot of times I see grease all over the face side of the main gear. That has no purpose. I don't know if they just overly greased the side spool bearings, which they should have oiled, or they thought that there was some particular friction point that they were eliminating by putting grease on it. There's not. And the only thing I can think of that it would do is probably impede performance by throwing that main gear out of balance somehow. But you see a lot when you open up enough of these to understand what's right and what's wrong. And we're going to just try and get this other one in. And again, I apologize for me and small parts. We don't get along very well. Okay, so here this looks like the last one. Okay, good. We're going to put a little bit of grease onto the shaft on that main drive. Again, remember we oiled the bearing on that side plate already, so we don't need to do much there, but this is the piece that goes inside the bearing, so we will put a little bit of grease on that. And then we're just going to reinstall that side plate. Nice snap there, and make sure that we got a nice smooth spin, which we do. I'm going to put the 3 side plate screws in, and then we're going to work on the drags up top before we go back and finish this reel off. So we'll put the 3 side plate screws in, put the handle on, and we'll test it one more time just to make sure everything is operational, that we didn't torque something out of compliance or something there. And once that operates, we'll go up top. So I'm using braid on this reel. You may have noticed that. You know, a lot of the newer reels you see braid ready. The older reels never advertise that. This one's got a strong enough, there we go, that's fine. This one's got a strong enough bail that we won't worry about the wear on that. And again, for the amount of time it goes fishing, I don't worry about it too much. There was a debate when braid first came out that it could cause problems. Okay, there's a spring screw that holds the drag stack in place. We're going to remove that. I use a pin. You can use a little screwdriver. It's not uncommon for the fishing reels to have this set up. This is the spring clip. When I do that, I keep my fingers nearby. And then these are fabric drags in here. So this one's got a little bit of dirt in the bottom of it, so I like to clean that up again. Now this is the one that takes the beating when you're out on the surf. It's not unusual to get some seawater in there from time to time. Some of the newer ones have water guards in that, but this one does not. All right, so I would tell you to take a picture if you don't know what you're doing with this, how they came out. These did dry out from last season, so I'm going to go re-grease these. And it alternates when you stack these up. It alternates this way, and I'm one drag ahead of this. But so it goes fabric, then it goes around metal, fabric, and then it goes the hexagon. It's only 6 sides, and then fabric, and then the top one. So I butter up the fabric ones, since I have a latex glove on there. You can work it in with your fingers. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Now the hexagon goes on. And one more set of greased washers here. Again, I'll work it in with the fingers. Put that last cap on. Now it's time to put that clip back in. That clip sits in an indentation. Again, make sure you hold that clip. That clip can go flying. I've seen it. It's happened to me. And it's just a nuisance to go try and find it from wherever it decided it was going to go fly to. Okay, and then all we have to do is line that piece up here on the shaft. Make sure that you're fully through on that. You install the drag knob. And I'm ready for another season. So I hope that if you have one of these, if you have any in the SS series, it's all pretty much the same. The only difference would be the size of the main drag and spool, but the mechanically it's all basically the same. And just have to tighten down that hold fast there. And there we go. I'm ready. So this reel is probably 20 years old. I've been fishing it a long time now. It's been a nice friend to have along on the trip. It's been reliable, dependable, and as long as you maintain these reels, they'll last just as promised. So It won't have the fancy new features. It won't be lightweight with the graphite. It won't be instant anti-reverse and so on, but it'll always do what it was designed to do, and it'll last you a long time. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope I've encouraged you to go tune yours up if you have one of these. If you'd like the video, please indicate that. If you'd like to see more, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, as I frequently post updates on the reels I'm working on in my shop. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, thanking you again for viewing this.